I shouldn't be alive to tell you this. Even now, when I close my eyes, I hear the screams, the thunder of artillery, and the silence that followed when my brothers never answered back. I was just 19, barely a man, thrown into the deadliest war mankind had ever seen. We were promised glory, honor, maybe even a quick victory. But what we got was hell. When people ask me how I survived, I struggle for words. It wasn't courage. No, I wasn't brave. It wasn't skill, either, because the bullets don't care if you're the best shot or the worst. The truth is uglier. I survived because fate demanded a witness. Someone had to crawl out of that graveyard of young men and remember what happened. Remember how everyone else fell, one by one, until I was alone. This is my story, not of triumph, but of survival. A story of freezing nights in the mud, of blood on my hands, and of friends I'll never see again. They all died, but somehow I lived. We landed in France just before dawn. The sky was painted gray, the sea black with shadows. My heart pounded so loudly I thought the enemy would hear it. The ramp dropped, and the world exploded. Machine guns spat fire, shells erupted all around, and men screamed as the water turned red. I remember clutching my rifle so hard my knuckles bled, trying to run forward even though every instinct begged me to stay behind. A friend of mine, Charlie, was just 2 steps ahead when a round caught him in the throat. He collapsed into the surf without a sound. I didn't even have time to stop. The tide swallowed him as I stumbled past. By the time I reached the beach, I had already lost half the men in my unit. The sand offered no cover, just craters and corpses. We pushed inland, crawling, clawing, trying to survive. The air stank of burning flesh and cordite, and every second felt like it would be my last. I can still feel the mud clinging to my boots, the weight of fear crushing my chest. Men I had laughed with the night before were gone in an instant. We weren't soldiers anymore. We were just targets scattered across a battlefield. And yet, somehow, I was still standing. That night, we dug into the earth like rats, carving out foxholes to shield us from the shells. It was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and never leaves. I shared my hole with a boy named Miller, just 17. He had lied about his age to enlist. In the flickering glow of a cigarette, I saw his hands tremble as he clutched a photograph of his sister. "Think we'll make it out?" he whispered. I wanted to lie, to tell him yes. But I couldn't. I just said, "Hold on until morning." That's all we can do. The shelling never stopped. Every boom shook the ground, rattling our teeth. At one point, Miller pressed his face into the dirt and started praying, his voice cracking. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew the desperation. We all prayed. When dawn broke, we were ordered to advance again. Miller didn't even get a chance to climb out of the hole. A mortar landed nearby, and just like that, he was gone, reduced to nothing but fragments. I sat frozen, numb, staring at the empty space beside me. That was the moment I realized none of us were guaranteed another breath. And yet again, I was spared. Days blurred into nights. Hunger gnawed at our stomachs, and exhaustion made every step agony. Then came the ambush. We were moving through a forest, quiet as shadows, when the world erupted again. Gunfire ripped through the trees, flashes of light illuminated the darkness, and men screamed as they dropped. I dove behind a log, clutching my rifle like a lifeline. I could hear my sergeant yelling orders, but his voice was drowned in chaos. I saw him fall, one shot through the chest, and suddenly, there was no one left to lead us. The air reeked of pine and blood. The forest was alive with death. I fired blindly, praying each shot meant survival. When the firing finally ceased, silence fell like a shroud. I looked around, and I was alone. My hands shook as I checked the others. All of them dead. Faces I had eaten with, marched with, laughed with, gone. I dropped to my knees in the mud, my chest heaving, my mind screaming. Why me? Why am I the one left alive? The guilt was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to run into the enemy's fire just to end it. But something held me back, maybe instinct, maybe cowardice, maybe the cruel will of fate. For weeks, I wandered battlefields that looked more like graveyards. Supplies were scarce, food almost non-existent. I lived on scraps, drank from muddy puddles, and slept in the ruins of homes that once held families. Everywhere I went, I carried ghosts with me. Charlie, Miller, the sergeant, faces that haunted me in every silence. I spoke to them sometimes, whispering into the dark, begging for forgiveness. When the war finally ended, there was no celebration for me. No parades, no triumph. Just silence. I boarded the ship home alone, clutching my rifle like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the world. People cheered as we docked, but I couldn't smile. They saw heroes. I saw only the dead left behind. Mothers rushed to embrace their sons. Wives kissed their husbands. I stood alone, my arms empty, because everyone I had called brother was gone. I had survived, yes, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like punishment. I sit here now, old and gray, telling you this story not because I want pity, but because I need you to understand. War is not glory. It's not medals or speeches. It's the sound of your best friend taking his last breath, the weight of knowing you lived when he didn't. They all died, but somehow I survived. That's the truth that haunts me every night. And maybe, just maybe, I survived so I could tell their story, so they wouldn't be forgotten. Because the real victory is remembering the ones who never came home.